It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. This is another offseason edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, along for the ride as well. And I wish y'all could have joined us just about 30 seconds before we started recording this episode. I think the conversation was interesting.
Rated R. That's what I'll say. It was maybe NC-17.
Baseball Today After Dark.
Ooh, we could do that.
Yeah, that would be good. Let us know in the comments if you would tune into something like that. Heck, we're all about creating the content, so we want to give you what you want. Yankees are giving their fans seemingly what they want. They trade one Cody for another on Tuesday. Cody Bellinger is headed to the Bronx, traded for reliever Cody Petit, who's headed to the north side of Chicago. Cubs also send over $5 million to cover some of the costs. Remember, Bellinger's got 2 years and $52-ish million left on his deal. That's if he picks up a player option in 2026. Now, since watching Juan Soto walk from the Bronx to Queens, New York has also added Max Fried. They've traded for Devin Williams. Is this team already better than the one that lost in the World Series?
I would say, Chris, I think a little bit more well-rounded, but I don't think they're better. I don't. I think offensively they still need to go get some parts. You can't forget the impact that Juan Soto had on this offense. I mean, it was monumental. An insane season that has not been replaced. Did they add an incredible starting pitcher and an incredible reliever? Yes. But I think you just can't dismiss the impact that Juan Soto has had. Now, do I think that by the beginning of the season, they'll be a better team? Yes, because I don't think that they are done. But I don't think that you can say that this offense right now is going to finish first in homers, third in runs, third in OPS like they did last year. So, yeah, I think there are certain aspects that got better. But I think in total, I guess I'd put them maybe on par with last year's team or maybe it's slightly below last year's team. But I don't think it's over yet. So I don't think that's that necessarily that big of a deal. I like the moves they've made. I think that, look, once Juan Soto was a Met, I think they already had contingency plans. They've been thinking about that for quite some time. I think they've done a really, really good job in, counteracting Soto's decision. But I think if you're just comparing rosters from last year to this year, I think I'll give them on par.
Yeah, so here's what I like about the New York Yankees is that they freaking have done stuff. They've done stuff which look like moves that make sense, right? You are adding a guy right behind Garrett Cole and in front of Carlos Rodon that when you make it to September, because this team's going to make it to September, you're like, damn, that's a top 3 that I can live with, and the rest of the rotation is excellent. And now you look at the bullpen and you're like, wow, the back end of the bullpen is going to be taken care of. Like, that all makes sense. The Bellinger deal is good for them. I don't think it's great. Like last year, he was a little bit over a 2-WAR player. He had some injuries, but that's kind of Cody Bellinger every year. It feels like he misses between, 20 and 30 games. That's kind of feels like where he is for whatever reason. Okay. And if he's a between 2.5 and 3.5 WAR player, then great. Now, they say he's going to play center field and Aaron Judge moves back to right. The most important part of that sentence is that Aaron Judge moves back to right. Get him out of center field. But it sure as hell sounds like, and I didn't watch Jason Dominguez play a ton in the minor leagues. It's not what I do, but I've seen some highlights and I read a lot of stuff, and it sounds like he's the guy that should be playing center field, not Cody Bellinger at this point. Bellinger, it's his positional versatility that makes him so good in that area. It doesn't mean that he's a great center fielder. Metrically, once again, and you all can decide how much you want to value that sort of stuff, he's not great in center field. You still have a vacancy at first base, all that sort of stuff. But when you look at the rest of the American League, who else has made this huge step forward that's on par with the Yankees, Plouffe? Nobody. It's like they don't even want to play. Like the Baltimore Orioles, we'll talk about them at the end of the show, have made some moves, but to me, they're not as good as they were a year ago.
So I think Cody Bellinger's great for the New York Yankees. I don't think this is just an okay trade. I think he fits them perfectly. You mentioned the positional versatility. I mean, he basically checks all the boxes of things that they need. A left-handed bat. They needed a left fielder, a center fielder, or a first baseman. Like he can
Mhm.
do all of those things. I actually don't think he ends up playing center field for them. I think that Jason, is it Jason or Jason? Jason. Jason ends up in center. Cody ends up in left. I think they should keep first base open. Uh, I think his I think his athletic ability kind of gets wasted at first base. Now he can go do that again. That's what makes him so valuable. But I think this is a great fit for the Yankees. And again, I don't think that they're done. And because he can play all these different positions, it just opens up, you know, the player pool for the next moves,
Right.
essentially.
Okay, so let's get to that. What is the next move you would make if you were Brian Cashman?
Um, it kind of depends on what you think of Jazz Chisholm. I think he has some positional versatility as well. So I
Mhm.
think that's important to the Yankees. I'd keep him at third base, and I would go. I mean, look, in a perfect world, what you'd sign Alex Bregman and Christian Walker, and just plug those guys into the corner, move Jazz to second base. I actually think Jazz is probably a better third baseman. Second base is not some easy position you can just throw a guy.
Mhm.
I know Jazz has played middle infield before, but realistically, what I think they should do, I think they should go get Hassan Kim and put him at second base. Keep Jazz at third, and then choose what they want to do at first base. I think there's a lot of options there. Like that's one thing that they have going for them is you can go sign a Carlos Santana on the cheap and have him play first base for you. I think he'd fit great in New York. Christian Walker's still out there. Pete Alonso's still out there. There's a lot of guys still out there. But I think getting a guy like Hassan Kim to really shore up an infield defense would be my next move if I was the Yankees.
That's good. Now here's something that the Yankee fans, in my opinion, have not paid close enough attention to. What does Juan Soto do as well as anybody in baseball?
Get on base.
Get on base. As of right now, the Yankees have one basic everyday player returning this coming season in their lineup that has an on base percentage over 326.
Oof.
Bellinger was 325. I think that's what Jazz was. So we're talking hovering right around league average, maybe even a tick below, depending on the season, right? That's not good enough. Like you want guys on to do some damage. So if you look out there, like Carlos Santana used to be an on base machine. He's not anymore. I think last year he was 328. He'll still give you a great at bat, but he used to be like up around 365, 370. Not anymore. The guy I would go get it's via trade, and I know he's not a good defender over there. Yandy Diaz. Last year, 373 on base. He has been around 400 before. He's making relatively not a ton of money, 8 million this coming year, then 10 million, then a team option after that. You have a bunch of lefties now in your lineup. You know, you got Bellinger, you've got Jazz, you've got Austin Wells. Dominguez, I keep hearing, is better as a left-handed hitter than a right-handed guy. Yandy Diaz gives you a little balance, gets you on base. Sounds good to go.
I love that move. I know that's been talked about a lot. Him, like maybe even the package him and Bilal coming up there.
Yeah.
I think my overall takeaway is that Jazz and Cody, their positional versatility just offers a wide variety of players that they can go get and finish their team. The team is not finished,
Right.
and I think no matter what they do, but they need two more guys. No matter what they do, what decisions they make, I think their team will end up being better than last year.
I would
It's
agree
not
with
right
that.
now, but it will be.
Right. Now, at the end of the day, does that mean that it's good enough to avoid a misstep against some team in the American League? And who knows what the
Doesn't
recipe is?
guarantee anything.
Doesn't guarantee anything. It just guarantees that you've done the best you can to put the best team on the field. And I think Brian Cashman has done a good job.
Go get Ha-Sung Kim. Go get him.
I like that move. That's nice. Even though this clears a ton of money for the Chicago Cubs, should Cubs fans still be pissed about this deal?
Circumstantial. See what they do with the money. I guess. Right. Like I wanted Cody to stay there for if I was a Cubs fan. I think the depth is what you need. Now they do need to fill other holes. So if this gives you the ability to go do those things, I think they should go sign a couple high leverage relievers with that money. Maybe I think they could still be on the market for like a right-handed starter because they're pretty lefty heavy in that regard. But I think I like their starting pitching kind of as is. It could get you through a season. They did a really good job last year. I think that's where I would go if I'm reallocating the $23 million or whatever it is that they save with Cody. I would go out and spend a majority of it on bullpen help. I know they haven't really done that in the past, but guess what? You need to change some things up in Chicago. So that's where I would go. So should they be pissed? Like initially, yeah, I think Cody's a hell of a ball player, and I think he is undervalued in the overall scheme of things. But I can't say that they'll continue to be mad. I want to see what they're going to do with that. And again, in my opinion, I think they should reallocate it and bring in a couple of high leverage relievers. I don't know whatever you want to do with it. If you want to go big boy and bring in Tanner Scott, sure, that'd be great. But I think that's where the money needs to go.
Why couldn't they have kept him and spent money?
I agreed. Yeah.
Now, isn't that the part that would make you pissed off if you were a Cubs fan?
Yeah.
Like, okay, Cleveland Guardians, last week we traded Andres Jimenez. Fans weren't happy about it necessarily, but I gave the explanation as to why that's the world we live in. Why should the Cubs live in this restricted area?
They shouldn't, because with this money off the books, I'm reading this right now. I believe they're at 192 for the payroll. They're $50 million short of the first CBT tax threshold. They need to if they don't want to go over, whatever.
I know.
You need to get up right next to that dang thing, which means you got about $40 million, $45 million to spend, and you better go do that. That's what would piss me off if I was a Cubs fan. Go spend that money and bolster this freaking club, dude. Like, give your fans what they deserve, dude. That fan base shows up. So go, if they do not get close to that number or even a little bit above it, I'd be absolutely livid if I was a Cubs fan.
That's why I'm asking the question. I mean, what's the point? Is it like an electronic fence where if you cross over the competitive balance tax, like all of a sudden your owner gets shocked? Like, you know how
they do, yeah, in the wallet a little bit, just a tiny little bit. It's a little like this.
Right. And we don't know exactly what they pulled in last year. There are some
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I know.
Go look around Wrigley and all the things that they built and own. I do not want to hear it.
Dude, this is why I'm asking the question. So the answer is yes. Like, you could keep Cody Bellinger. Now, did he play at a $25 or $27 million a year level a season ago? No, he didn't. He didn't. And maybe that's what they're saying, is that we don't think that it's going to get better back to what it was in 2023. I don't know. I mean, I think he might be somewhere between 23 and 24's performance. And if so, I think the Yankees make out fine. And I don't know. It would piss me off if I were a Cubs fan.
I think that, and I'm hoping this is the way they're thinking. I think that they were saying, look, we have PCA ready to take over in center field. We want to give this guy a real run, a full season. Okay. We have prospects coming up that can fill our needs at the corners, and we're going to reallocate this money and go supplement this roster. If that is the case, great. But if it's not the case and we're just kind of saving some money and we're gun shy to sign some guys, that's not okay. Like, I'm okay with you deciding baseball decisions that Cody's roster spot and the money can be better spent other places. I'm okay with that, but you better go do it. Like, that's the bottom line.
Well, you keep hearing that they want to get somebody they can put right up there with Justin Steele in the rotation. I'd be okay with that too. When I heard the name Jesus Luzardo, I about threw up all over myself. Not because he's not good a pitcher. He's good.
They don't need any more lefties, bro.
And he comes with so much injury history and all that. And now you're hearing Luis Castillo, which makes a little more sense, certainly as far as the dollars go. Guy's going to cost you around $72 million total over the next 3 years. Then there's a vesting option for $25 million. He was good. He wasn't great. He was far from great a season ago. So I don't know if that would excite me a ton. I don't know if I'm getting the squeeze that I want out of that based on what I'm paying him. And you're right. The bullpen needs major, major revamping. So Cubs, I will reserve judgment, but if I were a Cubs fan, once again, I would be pissed off at ownership that we couldn't keep him and add and flex our big boy muscles. Because that's
Yeah, they're not some small market team.
no, it's a
They're not.
joke. It's hard enough when small market teams do it, but when
Oh,
a team like the Cubs do it, then it's a real, real
now
problem.
you got me looking up franchise values in Major League Baseball.
Well, you can get to that after I get to
They're the 4th in the league.
woo. Today's episode of Baseball Today is sponsored to you by Mando. Mando's 72-hour formula keeps you fresh, even on those nonstop days. So while you're juggling gift lists and long lines and family gatherings, Mando, don't worry, has got you covered. No reapplying is necessary. It's made by a doctor. Mando is science-backed for real odor control, not some gimmick. Mando's low pH formula actually stops odor before it starts rather than simply covering it up. Mando's starter pack. It's perfect for new customers or to secure some last-minute stocking stuffers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Now, luckily, we have a discount code for you to help you get hooked on our favorite-smelling whole-body deodorant on the market. Brand new customers get $5 off the starter pack with the exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. So use the code baseball today at shopmando.com. That is shopmando.com. Please support baseball today. Tell them we sent you. Don't let the meat sweats get you this holiday season. Your family and friends and everybody around you will say, whew, thank you very much. And it does make for a great stocking stuffer. Like, that's something we do around here. Like, you don't think about it because you always need products. Pop a little Mando something in there. You're like, I feel better about life.
I like me some Mando. I have some like bourbon and leather scented soap that Olivia really likes. Cubs worth 4.2 billion.
Yeah, listen, the worth stuff, the net worth stuff does always get a little tricky because it's always about disposable cash that you can get to people where you
Oh, I
don't
don't
have
know
to
if you
sell
know
up.
this, but there's plenty of people willing to, lend them money. You can leverage that. There's a lot of things you can do when you have an
Oh, I
asset
know.
that's worth $4.2 billion.
I'm also not worried about them being able to cover payroll and things like that. I think
I'm
they'll
not
make it.
either.
I think they'll make it from week to week. Could be wrong. Let's continue on with the Cubs. Kyle Tucker, their brand new right fielder, played a game of Meet the Press over on Zoom. Just got traded from Houston with 1-year deal, with 1 year left on his current deal. Any talks, Kyle, about an extension?
Kind of like I've always said, I'm always open to talks and see where that leads. Always open to that. You never know what the future's going to hold, but kind of just see how things progress throughout the next however long, and see where it leads us.
What are you laughing at?
I think it's hilarious. What's he supposed to say? Of course. Hey, guess what? Jimmy and Jake, I'm also open to extension talks where you're gonna give me a bunch of money. I'm open to that. Like I'm open to it. Shoot, man.
The question I've got for you, is this going to be a season-long story with him? Like, is it something we're going or is he just going to talk about it one day at the beginning of spring training and then maybe someday around the trade deadline if things aren't great or is it going to be a constant storyline?
I don't think it'll be like a nuisance. I don't think it's just gonna go away for one day, where they're gonna say, well, they're gonna talk about this during the season. I'm not gonna talk about it during the season. I think it'll be brought up. Especially if they're actually trying to sign him to an extension. If they're really trying to do it, you know how teams and agents operate. Like there's going to be leaked numbers, there's going to be all these things. I don't think it'll be like a nuisance, though. I think Kyle Tucker's answered that question enough. He obviously knows what answer to give. That's the correct answer that he just gave right there. He's dealt with it in Houston as well. Like, this is a guy that's, a top 10 player in all of baseball. And, these questions are going to come up. But again, I don't think it's going to be a nuisance. Do I think it's just going to go away on one day? No, he's going to have to answer these questions. And I think they should be trying to have extension talks with this guy as best they can. And you know what? he'll get there. He'll see how much he really enjoys it, and then he'll decide for himself if he wants to go out there and test free agency. It's not going to be a problem. If you're a Cubs fan, like, oh man, like, hope this doesn't become a problem. It's not going to become a problem.
Yeah, it's not going to become a problem, but it will constantly be the subject of discussion on all the talk shows, all the podcasts, everything around the team. And you can't help but think that way, right? In part because of what we just saw Juan Soto sign for. In part because when guys are doing well, we're going to mention it. Boy, that price tag keeps going up. Or at a time where he's going to hit the shitter, because it happens to every major league player, people go, well, maybe this is the time to offer it to him, because maybe he's thinking that, well, maybe I'm struggling a little bit, and having that security. So there's always going to be some narrative along with it. It's not going to be a roadblock to a successful season at all for the Chicago Cubs. Nothing Kyle Tucker does or is said about him will prevent the Cubs from getting back to the postseason. In fact, having him there is what's good about everything in baseball on the north side of Chicago. The fact you pulled off the trigger on this deal and are giving it a shot, good. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I think the more we do hear about it during the season, it's probably a good thing for Cubs fans, because they'll be talking about, oh, this guy is awesome. We need to keep him around. Do what you got to do to keep this guy around. So, yeah, it's going to be a story, but not a deciding factor on how his year's going to go.
And it's going to be something of it will be I don't know if it'll be a trendsetter, but it'll be a monumental move if they do end up giving him some, money. They tried to extend all those guys from the 2016 team. Takes 2 sides to figure out an extension. It did not work out for any of them. Some got traded. Some just walked. Did any of them walk? Bryant got traded. Baez got traded to the Mets. Rizzo got traded. And Schwarber, I guess, is the only one that walked, right? He didn't get traded.
So he's about to turn 28.
Mm-hmm.
This is so stupid to play this game, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Please do.
10 years, $450. Does that get the job done?
Yeah, I think it does.
Is that Is that a crazy contract to give out?
Yeah, it is.
That's okay.
It is crazy.
It's pretty big.
It's huge. It's
10 years, 400. Does it get done?
Right. And I've had this talks about all the people that keep asking me about Juan Soto. Isn't that contract insane? Yes. You know what? It made sense for one team to give him that. And it was the team that gave it to him. Because Steve Cohen is just like, fuck it, I don't care. I'll blow past this tax, that tax. Don't care about international signing bonus. Don't care about draft picks. We'll figure another way through this whole thing. I wanted that guy. And oh, by the way, I'm going to keep spending money too. Right? If it's just Juan Soto this offseason and the guys that they've already signed and Clay Holmes and Frankie Montas, that's not a good enough offseason. I know we're kind of doing a little diatribe here, a little tangent, but y'all understand what I'm getting at. Now, if you sign Kyle Tucker to a $450 million extension, you're like, we're going to have to nickel and dime everywhere else, then that's not worth it for your franchise.
Chicago Cubs' largest contract ever given out, Jason Hayward.
I was going to say, what
sorry.
184?
8 for
184?
184.
Yeah.
So that's a little step up there.
Right. And this is the point. Is that, and that's why we asked that question leading up to the reported Tucker rumors. And then once he got traded, does it make sense if he pulls a Soto and he's one and done to do this to the Cubs fans?
All right, now I need to look up what was Jason Hayward doing when he got that contract? When did he get that contract?
He got it. He spent the 1 year in St. Louis. Remember, he was traded from Atlanta to St. Louis. He spent the 1 year there, and then he was young. He was in his mid-20s. He was probably 26.
So he was 26 when he came to the Cubs. He'd already accumulated 30 WAR in 835 games.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Tucker has played 633 games and accrued 23 WAR.
Mm-hmm.
Comparable players.
Yeah, Jason's bat was never what Tucker's is.
But younger,
and his defense was awesome. and he could
Kyle Tucker's won
run.
a few Gold Gloves or one Gold Glove.
He's won a gold. I know.
He wasn't Jason Hayward out there, no.
No, but Jason Hayward was nowhere close to the at bat that Kyle Tucker is.
I just had it up, like his numbers. So he, at the time, had a 784 career OPS, 114 OPS plus.
Mhm.
Tucker right now, career
Got to be in the high eights, 860
870, 139 OPS plus. Different players.
Different players. The bat plays, as we like to say. All right, let's move on to this. Devin Williams traded from the Milwaukee Brewers to the New York Yankees, met the New York media, spoke to them via Zoom, let out an interesting little tidbit on this back and forth with Brian Hoke.
Was this anything that was on your radar? Did you think this was a possibility?
To be honest, I didn't really think so. I thought, I kind of thought I'd be going to LA. That was what I was being told, and the Yankees snuck in there under the table and got the deal done.
I believe we can safely assume he didn't mean the Angels there. If that's the case, do you think the Dodgers are closer hunting still?
No. The Dodgers, this is what the Dodgers do, and they figured this out better than any other team, or they just they have the right idea about it. Go stockpile your roster with a bunch of good players. It doesn't matter if you have too many at one position or anything. Teams draft this way. Hey, best player available. But then they get to the roster construction, and they're like, oh, well, we have, a closer here, and, maybe we have an eighth inning guy. We don't need any more relievers. Like, no, dude, I don't care if you already have 3 starting outfielders. Go get another really good outfielder if you can do it. Go get more of whatever position that you have. Just get good players on your roster. You can figure out how to use them constructively. So I think that's what they're thinking. Like, they have plenty of guys that can go close games. They have Kopech, they have Trinan, they have Evan Phillips. Like, adding Devin Williams, it's just smart baseball. Like, these guys, they can pitch at any time, close games out. I don't think they're necessarily closer hunting. They're just saying, we want to make our roster better. They have done it better than any other team in the big leagues. They don't care about, well, we have this spot here, we shouldn't go out. They just say, put the best players on our team, will figure it the freak out, man. And that's why they're in the position that they're in.
Okay. So you don't think that because they were going to go after a controllable for one more year guy whose salary was coming down? Remember, the Brewers, they kind of finagled his salary, and so it's going to be probably $1.5 million or $2 million less than it would have been if he went through the last year of arbitration. I think they are. I think they're shopping. I really do. And
specifically a closer?
I think they're shopping specifically for a closer that isn't going to break their bank. And it would not surprise me if they're calling my favorite team. I swear to God. You don't know how many.
Would they love Emmanuel Clase to come? Yeah. Would they love Devin Williams to be on the team? Sure. But you could talk about, hey, Griffin Jax isn't a closer, but guess what? They'd love to have him on the team. I don't think that's specifically closer hunting. I think they just said, hey, we love having a lockdown, airtight bullpen. So sure. Those are great examples, Chris. Clase and Williams are, in my opinion, 2 of the most valuable relievers in the game because of their contract situations and the track record they have. So, I mean, I know what you're saying. I just don't think it's relegated to we need a closer. I don't think they're thinking that way.
No, I don't think so either. Because you got to July, if you had said, well, who's going to close Game 7 of the World Series for the Dodgers? You couldn't come up with a definitive response. It ended up being Walker Buehler on the mound in Game 5.
Hilarious.
Right. I mean, and by the way, that is not something new. How many times in the last 15 years have we seen starting pitchers close out a World Series?
Ooh, that'd be fun to name that. I mean, obviously it's Madison Bumgarner,
Chris Sale,
Walker Buehler, Chris Sale,
Charlie Morton.
So fun. Yeah.
Charlie Morton did it in 2017.
That's a fun exercise.
Julio Urias did it for the Dodgers.
For the Dodgers, you're totally right. Nice.
Yeah, it is fun. That's a fun exercise.
Does Jack Morris count for the? Was that game?
Well, that was a walk-off, so he wasn't technically on the mound, but
he never came off either.
Right, he went the full 10 innings in 91. Yeah. Yeah, it's happened because, yeah, you look through and you see the 90s and it's, closer after closer after closer for the most part. Interesting. Interesting stuff. I like that.
Yeah, the Dodgers are they're just stockpiling good players. Good job, guys.
By the way, give a real opinion here. Josh, our oldest son, he and I have gone over several different trade scenarios for Emmanuel Clase.
Oof.
And the Dodgers one. We do this probably once a day. Is that healthy or unhealthy to do?
For you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great for you're mentally preparing for him to leave. That's great. So when the day comes, you'd be like, okay, we already traversed this mentally. We can navigate. Yeah. It's called you're visualizing, Chris.
Got it. You know what we all need a little bit more of around here? To get off our ass with bold flavors and a refreshing citrus kick, Mountain Dew is going to get you off your ass and have you feeling like you're on an actual mountain. A mountain where the weather is always perfect. Your friends are ready to hang. A day of epic proportions awaits. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to go outside at some point today. Find an activity that's equal parts fun and competition. I don't care if it's a 3-point shooting contest. I don't care if it's a long drive competition. Furthest throw in baseball or football, a putting contest. I don't care if it's racquetball, if anybody plays that, pickleball, blitzball, wiffle ball, any sort of ball. Just do it because the mountain is calling and you should answer. So grab your friends, grab an ice cold Mountain Dew wherever refreshing beverages are sold, and do the do. All right, before we get out of here, we talked about the O's a little bit earlier and them making some noise, right? They've added a couple of right-handed power bats in the offseason. Now they add a right-handed pitcher, 35-year-old Japanese sensation Tomoyuki Sagano. He's won multiple MVPs and Cy Young Awards overseas, or their equivalents. How intrigued should everybody be about him?
I think this is an incredible sign. If you're pretty much any team, you should be mad that you didn't acquire this guy. 1 year's $13 million for, whatever. People can say, oh, he's going to slot it in the fourth or fifth spot. You don't know that. This guy could come over and light the world on fire. He's done really well over there. I think, the numbers will tell you a story of a kind of like a contact pitcher who doesn't walk guys. But you bring a splitter over to the U.S. and the way the guys swing the bat here, like the strikeout rate's going to go up, in my opinion. So I read the article about how the Orioles ended up with this guy, and it was awesome because basically they said they had a Zoom call, they had their pitching strategist on, and they just talked ball. And they mentioned how cerebral he was, and they went back and forth about pitch plan, what they wanted, what he thought, and it was just a ball conversation, and he ended up choosing the Baltimore Orioles. 1 year, $13 million. He could stink. It doesn't matter. The chance to have a guy that could slot into the middle of your rotation for that amount of money is awesome. And there's data that is shared between the leagues that these guys are making informed decisions, obviously. So I think this is a great signing for them. I think this obviously doesn't take them out. It should not take them out of a running for, a top of the rotation guy. But I think we're going to be looking back at this deal in the middle of the season, and we're going to be like, are you kidding me? The Orioles got this guy for 1 year, 13. And even if we aren't, Chris, maybe things aren't going great. It's 1 year, $13 million. That is less than what a starter in the big leagues typically makes. So I think it's a great signing by them, and they did it because they had a great meeting with him, which I think if you're an Orioles fan, you got to feel pretty good about that they convinced this guy to come over just because you were talking ball like this. He liked what you had to offer in regards of your player development and what in your coaching staff. That I think is really cool. So I love this signing. I told Jake earlier this morning, I wish my Twins would have this is a guy they should have. I'm sure they tried to. I wish they would have got him.
Well, we've been yelling at the Orioles to do something.
By the way, your Guardians could have used him too.
Totally could have used him. There's no question. There's a ton of teams that could have used a guy like this. Part of the reason I'm super excited about it is because of what Shota did a year ago. right? Yamamoto came over with all of the headlines. Guy in his mid-20s, looks flashy, has 18 different pitches, throws 97. That's not what Shota was. That's not what this guy is. But I am super excited because Shota was one of my appointment viewing pitchers a season ago. I loved watching him. And so I'm curious to see what this guy has to offer, particularly on a team that needs help in its starting rotation, right? I mean, look at the rest of it right now without Corbin Burns. It doesn't mean that he can't return there, but Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez, Dean Kramer, is it Cade Povich right now who's got the inside track on the 5 spot? Might be Suarez, right? Rogers might get another shot. They need more than just this guy to come in. But he's a guy, once again, like, well, we've got ourselves a 4 now. Guys don't look at it that way. Like, hey, I'm slotting in as a 4. It's a little bit like the NBA. It's like positionless. You go out and be a starting pitcher. I don't know if you're going to be the 4th best on our rotation. I don't know if you're going to be the 2nd best or the best, or you're going to be out of the rotation. But this is a good move for them. It's beneficial. We talked earlier about that it feels like it's the Yankees making all the moves and nobody else in the American League is giving a shit at this point. Well, Baltimore has done some stuff, and whether or not you think that Tyler O'Neill and Gary Sanchez are enough to power them with an addition here of this guy, I don't think so, but it's a nice piece for Mike Elias moving forward. So I'd grade it like a 7.5.
It's a great deal, and I'm trying to find the article that I read that talked about their conversation. I think it was on The Athletic, and I know that's paywalled, but I thought it was so cool, man. Like what a like stamp of approval for your coaching staff to say like he signed because he had a great pitching talk with them. It's awesome.
All right, we are edging closer to the holiday season in the middle of next week. We still have at least one more baseball today before that happens. But, you know, if something big breaks, Corbin Burns, Alex Bregman, Anthony Santander, another huge trade that we don't see coming, we will always be here for you. Because, John Boy Media, we're like family. Yes, caller.
You want to see the pup?
Oh, my God, do I want to see the pup. Come on. This is such big news because for years that we've done this show, I don't want a dog. I had dogs as a kid. They would break my heart. I can't do that to my kids. And now, let's see what Plouffe. You've got to be kidding me. Come on.
There she is.
Come.
Palmer Plouffe.
Hi, Palmer. So sitting there the entire time and didn't make up a peep?
No, she was just chilling in her crate. She has a little chew toy. She's shy. Are you camera shy?
Oh,
a little bit. Okay. God. Okay. Bye-bye. Love you.
Oh, my God.
Now I better get out and take her to the bathroom.
I was going to say, you better hurry up or there's going to be something special delivered for Daddy.
She's been great so far. She's been great so far.
She looks great. Go out and, by the way, rescue your dogs if you can. All pets.
My previous 3 dogs were rescue dogs.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not here to pick on you. I'm just reminding everybody that during the holiday season, looking to add to your family, we did it 11 years ago, and it changed our lives with Sydney. That's all I can tell you. We're back at it again at some point, so just always keep your reminders on. They're going to send you something. Let us know baseball today is here because for our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, the uber-talented doggy daddy, Trevor Plouffe, I am Chris Rose. We will see you soon here on Baseball Today.